Yes, yes, yes. Hello. By the way, fix
Oh,
your content.
oh, we're live. We're live. Hello.
Yes,
Good
fix your
morning,
content
everybody.
first.
Good morning. Good
Fix it, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, go ahead. We're live. We're live.
Yes,
We're live.
okay. Hello, hello, and welcome to another live Monday, start of the week. And week starts with capital R reading, practicing capital R reading. And last time when we had live, I asked Syl about we discussed something, and then he mentioned such profound points about clarity of intent, and sometimes the understanding of intent. Clarity, yes, we might be very clear, but does it mean that the intent itself is appropriate and right in the context or not? That is something I never actually, because for me, I was just taking it for granted that when I have clarity, it means by default, it is going to be appropriate also, which might not be actually. It is something I was not being aware of, or I was taking for granted. But since he mentioned that, I realized that it's being thorough is something really, really kind of like time consuming thing that you have to go into details. Otherwise, you can miss such a big and crucial point in it. Like, yes, clarity is not about that I'm clear what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is also appropriate or not. It has to be first, which was not in my awareness, at least not consciously. And that he still actually brings that. And I'm like, wow, this is so important. Yes, because my granny used to say that when people who are on big positions, they also have big challenges. It's a very famous saying in Urdu, which sounds very interesting when they say in Urdu. I'm just translating it. When you are being deliberate, when we choose to be deliberate, it comes with more responsibility. Yes, it comes with a lot of benefits, but it also comes with a lot of responsibilities. I cannot be just, yes, I'm deliberate in this, but I'm just overlooking the other aspects. Cannot do this. And once we try to do that, once we understand some part of it at least, then we become able to see more, and that more also needs to be thorough and deliberate in it. This is exactly what happened with me. Clarity of intent, I was kind of assuming in my mind, but at least reasonably, I understand what clarity of intent is, which was not false. It was, but was I completely understanding it? Now I can say no. I was not understanding it completely. It was more than that. It was just a surface thing. Yes, clarity of intent. I need to be aware of what I'm doing, but appropriateness, and then the connection and the importance of appropriateness becomes so highlighted in my mind that how we are actually determined what is appropriate, and uh, and also that we must not forget to first look for appropriateness. Yes, I can be clear about any inappropriate nonsense also. Oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. But the appropriateness needs to be the basic and the first and the most important thing in any aspect, in any consideration. And this is what I was missing in the clarity of intent. And this is what happened when Syl mentioned that it was like a light bulb on. Oh, this is what I was missing. and that also, of course, it proves that there is always more, always. Exactly. We assume that we have learned something. It was not something I was feeling like, oh yes, I have no I don't need to. But at least I was feeling satisfied with my understanding. And that is something.
Well, you did
even,
have a good understanding of clarity intent itself. Yes,
yes.
you did. You did.
Yes, but when the more becomes obvious to me, and I realized that
Oh,
uh,
oh,
it was okay, but not satisfactory.
no, no, but this
And
is
now,
your potency that you do update like this. You do update. You update. Say, oh, I didn't quite fully understand, and you update. And we never fully understand. There's always more. It's a magical thing that you're doing, Beena.
oh,
It's a
thank you.
magical thing. Very
It
powerful.
makes me feel good. It makes me feel
Yeah.
good.
Oh
Just
yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
today's thought. We were busy in doing something where precision, like preciseness, was crucial in exchanging information. Me and Syl, we were doing something, and it includes some quoting some numbers. It includes quoting precise information.
Research. Yeah.
And when we were doing that, uh, we got distracted. We get distracted, and we both were like, okay, I was saying something else, and Sir was listening it to in different context. When he was mentioning something, I was receiving it in something different. Why it happens? We both were right. We both were on the same page, but we were not on the same line. We were both on the same page. We were talking about the same thing, and we both were trying to exchange the information, which was appropriate, which is right. But we were not on the same line. And that when I realized that sometimes the communication, especially when it is important, when it is about exchanging some real precise information, when you need to pass it on or receive because you have to quote it, redundancy becomes crucial. It needs to be. Like, it's redundant to say it again and again what I'm talking about. I know that, okay, we are on the same page. We are talking about the same thing. But in these type of situation, things which are like, oh, repetition, things like, oh, it's redundant to say that. But they become crucial, which again proves that everything is in context of appropriateness.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing itself could be, we can assume that, oh, it's right or wrong. Nothing can be right or wrong. It's all about appropriateness. Even redundant is appropriate. Even repetition is appropriate.
Yes.
And that was something I was just feeling that okay, how we just distract a bit. It was just a slight difference. And then we lose a track. And then what he was talking about and what I was talking about becomes completely different. So we assume that, oh, we both are on the same page. Yes, can be on both same. We both can be on the same page, but we need to be on the same line also, on the same wavelength, on the same frequency, so we can understand. And it is so crucial for the communication. Again, another realization. So I thought that, okay, it is important for me to share it. By sharing, I practice to say it out loud so I can hear in my own voice what I'm trying to say. It's just an emphasis mechanism. I do practice for myself to get the maximum value out of it. So I will not forget it. I will not take it for granted. That's why I just repeat it, and now it becomes like engraved in my mind. And I will try to implement it and be really thorough and deliberate when it comes to information and communications. That was the learning or the awareness of the day for me.
Yes, and that's super fantastic. That is super fantastic. Can you pull up slides, Beena?
I can. Slides. Okay, just give me a minute.
Right. Right. This is so cool. And just to reiterate this point about clarity of intent. Of course, we assume or take for granted maybe that it's included, that when we get clear about our intent, in other words, we say, what do I want? But then you say, intent is a little bit different to what I want. Yeah, I want a Ferrari, but do I want to make an effort to get it? No. Do I want all the hassles that come with it, the extra insurance payments, the stress about worrying it getting scratched when I go to the supermarket, the lack of cargo space, et cetera, et cetera. All right, Ferrari's fine, but I need a minivan. Yeah, all right, well, too bad, Ferrari. Yeah, it's not appropriate, in other words. But it's still something I want, but it's not something I intend. Intent is when you are willing to put energy into something to get it, right? And you are committed to making that thing happen or getting what you want. It's not just about getting, it's making things happen also. Furthermore, intent involves the universe. When I put an intent out there, I can intend something and there's a limit to what I can do in physically to make it happen. But my intent, that energy that I put out there, out into the universe, this is making things happen to get me what I want. Now, of course, that energy depends on how much energy you have, how much power you have to make things happen, right? If you only got a little bit of energy and you waste it all on all sorts of stuff, well, then your intents aren't going to really materialize, or they're going to take a very long time to materialize, right? It's like if you've got a very weak, poor computer, slow internet connection, well, you could send a query out onto the internet and take forever to search and things, right? In the beginning days when we started, I remember Google when it first came, it would sometimes take minutes or even hours to give you the results. Yeah. And it would always tell you found, and later it said, found in 3 minutes, 2 minutes. You still see that, but now it's seconds. Yeah. But people forget, they don't remember that it took a long time when the internet connection was slow, when power was low, in other words, right? The internet connection takes a lot of power. And same thing with intent. It's not just about your own computing power, which makes a difference, but also the strength of your connection to spirit, to the universe. If you've got a cloudy, muddy connection, you've got poor internet connection, your intents aren't going to materialize. Right. All right. So this is the important thing with clarity of intent. First of all, we need to make sure that we really, 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 really do want it. We are prepared to put effort into it. In other words, you could say in a very practical way, am I prepared to spend a lot of money to get this? Yeah. Am I willing to make that effort to do so? Now, energy, money, they're the equivalents, right? In the non-material realm, energy is the same as money, right? It's the currency of what makes things happen. It's very powerful, very important. So this is where clarity of intent comes into it, is to be sure that you are not chasing things that you kind of sort of want, but not really want. And this people do all the time. They have these ideas that they should want stuff like the Ferrari, but then when they get it, then, well, not really. Or they don't really want it. So, of course, if you have a counter intent, then the stuff starts canceling out, then you never get what you want because you don't really want it, right? So it all balances out. But now, let's say you do intend to get the Ferrari and it's still inappropriate because you actually need a minivan, but your status, your ego says, no, I have to have this Ferrari. Sometimes people get it and it can cause quite a mess in their lives. My point is here, we can have inappropriate intents, yes? Now, it could also be that you might not think the Ferrari is necessary, but it actually is. And then attunement comes and says, yes, I understand that you can't see why you need a Ferrari, but actually you do. Because the love of your life, the dream woman that you, or husband that you always wanted to, they see you driving his Ferrari, they're going to connect to you. Who knows? I'm just making up a story here, all right? But sometimes we need things in our lives that we have no clue that we need because of stuff that's going to happen, and we don't know what's going to happen, but the universe, I assume, does, because time doesn't exist. It's all in one moment. So the universe has past, present, and future all in one go. So the universe knows what's coming, and then stuff coming to your life that you need in the future. At least this is what I've experienced and discovered through experience over and over again, many, many times. And therefore, sometimes attunement will bring you things that you need to intend, that you need to connect to. And also when you pay attention to attunement and you say, I have absolutely not one single reason via attunement to intend this Ferrari. I might think it's appropriate, but certainly nothing in attunement says it's appropriate. Right? Then I don't intend it. That's me at least. And likewise, I might think it's completely inappropriate, but the universe says, nope, this you need to do. All right, I go with the universe. That's a tough lesson. That is the hardest thing to do, I gotta tell you. When you personally can't see one good reason for it, but you're being pressed to do so by the universe. Listen up, because if you don't listen to those initial presses, they get a little bit more pressing, and then they get a little bit kind of, you get a smack upside the head or a kick in the backside, or you get a push or a shove. All right, the universe will make sure you get where you need to go, even if you don't want to go there, right? You may go kicking and screaming. But I've learned that, when I get those messages, I go with them, whether they now make sense or not. And it always turns out magical. Always turns out magical. Yeah. Every time, at least in my life, right? And while I see it for others too, it's not just only for me. So this is a very important point, this to understand that we can have a clarity of intent, but not have it be in attunement and in alignment with the universe. And that's a very important point that we do need to make sure that it's both, right? And of course, being clear about your intent, whether it's in attunement or not, makes a great big difference. Because like we said with the Ferrari, if you start really paying attention, it's kind of hard to start intending things which are inappropriate, unless you're an inappropriate person, but then you won't be that clear about clarity of intent. And okay, right? See what I mean? So clarity of intent as a safeguard against foolishness. Because when you truly examine something with that level of clarity, and part of way of impeccability, of course, is to be thorough, scrupulous, diligent, conscientious, to have integrity, to be honest. Well, if you're going to be honest, then how do you make the case for the Ferrari if it's a pure ego nonsense thing? See, it's very difficult. So clarity of intent, it filters out inappropriateness to a large extent. Of course, part of way of impeccability is also attunement. And it's the whole program. It starts with clarity of intent and ends in attunement, and then they connect together. Yes, Beena? Make sense? Just to go over it all again. It's a very important topic, very, very important topic. So it's worth going over again.
Yes, and also not understanding or not being able to understand the messages, the universe.
Yeah,
I can say that, okay, being there, I was
yeah, that's a different topic. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but it is hard. Yeah. Why I'm just emphasizing on it, because it is really it is hard to understand that is it really a message for me, and that's something where I struggle.
Right. And that's where, but often those messages from the universe are ambiguous. Why? Because it doesn't really matter sometimes. If you're traveling cross country, right, and you get a fork in the road, all right, so you take the south road, you take the north road, at least it's a loop, right? Because there's some mountain in the middle. If you go around it on the bottom side or the top side, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get to your destination either way. And in situations like that, when you get the message from the universe, it's a bit ambiguous because it's leaving it up to you. It doesn't really matter. All right, the one is maybe 1 or 2 miles shorter. Big deal. Over 1,000-mile journey, does it really matter? The pluses and the minus becomes, okay, maybe this one's a bit more scenic, but scenic for who? And so on and so forth, right? So when you put it all together, the differences are so small and negligible, it doesn't really matter. And then you get a choice. So that's why attunement and the messages from the universe sometimes are a bit ambiguous, because it does give you the choice, right? Plus, they're always going to have an element of choice in, because you need to take responsibility for your own choices, part of the lesson. There's always some measure of choice involved. And when you decide, you now make it appropriate. just in deciding about it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Or sometimes, right? So this is a very, very powerful thing to be aware of, this whole system and how it works. And when we get to this, and when we are being impeccable, and we make a decision, and you say, I did everything that I can, in the end, it doesn't really matter. When there's that clarity of intent, there's that responsibility, there's that commitment, there's that energy. We're going to make it right. Doesn't matter if it was a little off in the beginning. Does it really matter? No. All right. So let's take this again with a journey, right? So I leave to go to another place, and I'm not really sure where it is. Yeah. And I start going in my journey, and I couldn't figure out which way to start where I'm at, because nobody knows where this place is. So off I go. And I ask in the next town, all right, I want to go to this place. They say, no, it's not here. It's not on this road. We don't know anything about it. And I keep going, and nobody knows anything. Say, well, all right, let me try the other way. And I go back and I go the other way. All right, yeah, a little further. See what I mean? You're going to get that direction. All right, sometimes if you start in the wrong direction, you may end up having to go back again, but it doesn't matter. In the process of starting and doing, you get more information, and then you use that information to update your decision making. So sometimes it doesn't matter that we're starting in the wrong direction. Well, let me. A lot of times the thing makes it very easy. All right, so I'm in Los Angeles for argument's sake now, and I have to go to New York. Well, I know New York is, I can get there by land. So I go from Los Angeles. It's a silly example, but it will make the point. And I go west. Well, I end up at the ocean. Well, all right, this is not the right way. And then I go the other way. See what I mean? Sometimes the obvious, you get that obvious clue, like, well, if I'm heading into the ocean, well, duh, I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, because I can't go across the ocean now. See, that's what I mean. Our decisions aren't as critical as we think, because there's much opportunity for correcting as we go along. The key is to do. The key is to do, and then as you do, to keep updating. But you're not going to get the information to actually act on until you do. That's why that initial decision isn't so critical. It's the ones that you make when you do. Those are the ones that matter. But again, it's the cumulative effect that matters. Yeah. Over time, you keep making the decisions, you get some wrong, doesn't matter. You'll get there in the end. Snakes and ladders, right?
Yes.
And the thing is, with the snakes and ladders, the game of snakes and ladders in life, the snakes and ladders game is biased in your favor. So in other words, I don't know if this is the actual snakes and ladders game that I played as a kid. In other words, if you did purely random throws, on average, you are going to end up getting to the end, right? Because yes, you go down, but it's biased that it favors you, that you're going to land more often on a ladder than you will land on a snake. See what I mean? I mean, that would make sense for the game to be biased that way, not be completely 50-50. Right now, if you're like really unlucky, you end up at the bottom. But if I remember the game, that you get to the end anyway, it's just a matter of continuing, right? You may end up at the bottom temporarily, but then you keep rolling the dice and eventually you get there. The game was about who got there first, right? And in life, again, when you're on your own journey, does it really matter now if you end up going backwards for a little bit? You're going to get there in the end. Just got to keep on going. And therefore, the actual decision isn't that critical. It's the keeping going that matters, right? It's like we could think of our decisions as rolling the dice. On balance, the game is rigged in your favor. So even if you just randomly take your turns and choices, you're going to get there. Of course, impeccability is really important. Yeah. Because impeccability is making the dice roll true. And unimpeccability biases your dice. Yeah. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. And also, our agendas, and this is where clarity of intent comes into it. Anytime we have personal agendas, likes, all of this stuff, those all load the dice. That's why acting without agenda, where in other words, you have no personal load on the dice. You just roll the dice and you see what comes. And that's it. Attunement, whatever comes, you go with it. That's why it's so powerful. Because now you are letting the game take you rather than influencing how and where you want to go with your personal preferences and likes and dislikes and idiosyncrasies and ever, which influence the dice. It's very powerful analogy. Very, very powerful analogy. Yes, Beena?
It is. It is.
Set up?
It is.
All
Definitely
right.
it
Wonderful.
is.
Wonderful. All right. Do you have slides open?
Yes, the slide number. Could you tell me?
Oh, we're starting. We're gonna start from scratch. It's the go over, right? So we're on slide 1.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because we haven't. It's just yesterday we read the story. We're doing the go over now, right? So we're starting from the front.
Yes.
Now, did Norma come yet? I sent her the message, but yeah, I think maybe she's got visitors and daughters with her. Anyway, hello Norma. If you're here, I don't see you, but in case you're here, hello, wonderful. All good if you're not. Yeah, she's not online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, oh, it's all good, definitely.
Yeah.
A bit
I just like
unusual because
Norma.
it's like, okay, yes, Norma
We've become
usually.
used to Norma, but we can't take it for granted.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful. All right, you read, Beena. You read. I like to hear you read the story.
Okay.
It's very
Okay.
nice.
Okay. This is where this is the one, chapter 9.
No, chapter 10, origin story.
Oopsie, I'm just getting all these things.
That's all good. The most recent one, in other words.
Yes. Okay. The origin story. Goes. There is always goodness somewhere in everything. To believe otherwise is to deny everything. The young man, from Quotes of the Young Man. How we project our intent to goodness, no matter how seemingly inaccurate and hopeless, determines our heart and soul. Attributed to Sabastian.
And that key point in that quote is that project. In other words, how we take our inner stuff and put it out onto the world. It reveals our soul. Because in this case, Sabastian was projecting his desire for goodness and moreness onto Elluminia. And it revealed his desire for moreness, for goodness, for nobility. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It was time. The crowd fell into hushed, expectant silence as Biella seated herself into the ornate chair. Fully dark now. The light from the accessories to
Oh, Beena drop. Oh, wow. All right, sorry about that. Oh, well, then I have to read a bit. Huh. I thought I dropped there for a second. I'm on the phone and the computer. That's why you see two of me. Oh, problem. Oh, problem. This point, I want to actually go over that quote again. How we project our intent to goodness, no matter how seemingly inaccurate or hopeless, determines our heart and soul. In other words, we can have this deeper desire for goodness and moreness, etc. And we can't give up on it, right? We want to say, hey, I want to insist on this. So I project it in my world around me, even though it seems hopeless, right? That I might not ever achieve, okay, world peace or whatever. Doesn't matter. I want to project that. I want to put that out there constantly. And it doesn't matter if it's inaccurate or hopeless, but it shows and it determines our heart and soul. It doesn't matter if it's hopeless or inaccurate, right? We got to keep trying. We got to keep intending it. Our intent to goodness cannot be compromised, in other words. And when we do, then we change. This is the point. So how we project our intent to goodness determines our heart and soul. There's a relation there. Just because you think it's hopeless or inaccurate or whatever, that your intent to goodness, to what you're putting out there, that doesn't matter. You can't compromise on this intent to goodness. You can't give up on world peace or whatever your intent to goodness is because you think it's hopeless or it can't happen or whatever. No, you have to keep trying for it, because that's what determines your heart and soul. Not whether you actually achieve it, but what you try for, what you aspire to, what you intend. This determines your heart and soul. Yes. Of course, if you're gonna not try for it, that will also determine your heart and soul. But trying for the hopeless and what is believed to be impossible or inaccurate, that says a lot about your heart and soul. Yeah. The world doesn't work the way we think it does. And as such, we keep that in mind. We can't say, well, just because I believe it to be impossible doesn't mean it actually is. Yeah. All right. Look how the world has changed in the time that we've been alive. All right. I've been around a little while, and I grew up in unusual circumstances, so I've seen lots of changes. But just take from a more recent change, COVID. Yeah. Look at how COVID changed so much, that it changed our ways in which we live. For instance, many more people are working from home now because COVID said, well, you've got to work at home. They were forced to work at home. And then when they realized, oh wow, this is no big deal. Now it's more convenient to work at home. And so they do work at home. And also many people lost their jobs, right? And they couldn't work and they were forced to work from home themselves. Oh, wow, this is a lot easier than I thought it was. Or at least it's possible, whether it's easier or not. So our entire system changed profoundly. And look, we have record unemployment now. Who would have thought? Yeah, one of the reasons is because people have found more ways to be able to work and be productive. A big shift in our entire society, situation, world, everything. Yeah, big shift. But who would have thought it? Yes, people did speak. There was movies and stories about, viruses and epidemics and pandemics and all this. It's not like it was a complete surprise. Nonetheless, it happened. It was always just a fictional story thing, but it happened. And we learned to live differently. To me, the magic of COVID was it forced us to learn to be impeccable and not take chances. How much of that came through and rubbed through, I don't know. Nonetheless, that's part of the logic, part of the reason. Beena lost internet connection there. Yeah, not online. Don't keep reading. Don't keep reading. Well, I hope she comes back soon. Wow, it says active 21 minutes ago. Wow, that really dropped her there big time. All right, never mind. We'll go over it. All right. So this point about how we project Of course, these quotes always, they touch the story, right? And so we want to keep this in mind, that there is a projection of intent to goodness going on, right? Both with Illuminia in our own peculiar way, and with Sabastian in trying to make sense of Illuminia. Yeah. And he insisted, he didn't want to say, no, Illuminia is, she could be seen as a difficult person, as a bit of an ego person, because she could never admit being wrong, etc. Right? He said, no, there's got to be more here. And this reveals him in his view of Illuminia. Whether it's accurate or not doesn't matter. The result was profound. Yeah? Consequence. It was time. The crowd fell into hushed, expectant silence as Biella seated herself into the ornate chair. Fully dark now, the light from the accessories added to Biella illuminated her beauty. She was radiant. The subtle lights of the statues in the Garden of Origin added to an effect of profound appreciation, a glorious delight in the wonder of the world. Right there, right? The subtle lights added to an effect of profound appreciation. This is part of the daily, everyday, constant mood, mindset, attitude of the new nobility. They consciously and deliberately make an effort to connect constantly to profound appreciation. That's just the state of being that they wish to live in. A glorious delight in the wonder of the world. Now, I ask anybody hearing me say this, why do you not have this in your life? What is preventing you from engaging in and connecting to and having a glorious delight in the wonder of the world? If you're in a bad mood, does the wonder of the world change? Or is it still there? It doesn't go away when you're in a bad mood. It's always there. It's always there. It's always there. Yes, I'm repeating this because it's such a profound point. If it's always there, that means we can always be enjoying it, correct? Our choice, our choice, our choice. That profound appreciation, when we understand that everything has its magic, its goodness, whether it be nice or not nice, evil, bad, doesn't matter. There's some lesson to be learned. We can have this profound appreciation for the genius, the exquisite brilliance of the world and the universe we live in. It's incredible. It's incredible. Even the nonsense has value. Even the rubbish, even the bad has value. What an incredible world we live in. Right? So this is a very big point here. Very simple couple of little lines, but they reflect the culture of the new nobility. It's not a casual culture. It's a very deliberate, thoughtful, considerate, deep, profound culture. Right? Just a small little thing thrown in there. But the point of these lives and doing these capital R readings, or at least one of them, is to practice capital R reading, which is to practice the skill of looking at implications. It's to practice the skill of looking at layers, layeredness. It's the skill of looking at extended context, right? Like this, yeah? From that, we can take more. It's not specifically saying this is the culture of the new nobility. Yes, other places it does. When you put it all together, it's there. Yeah, yeah, right? So this is just part of that. They emphasizing it in the story as part of the culture. But this is powerful when we learn to have this ability to connect to more through the things that are presented to us, that we are connecting with on the first step. We can connect to what lies beyond and beyond and beyond, and we can get connected to the all in that way. It's a powerful thing. It's a very, very powerful thing. Very, very powerful. All right. Hold on one moment. Did I drop off here? I wanted to show the background picture. Oh, you are seeing me with the lights and Biella and the lights, or at least a potential Biella. And no one knows what Biella looks like, not even me. Right? She can be anything. So I use whatever pictures come across that at least try and represent a good attitude, a good mindset, that don't show somebody who's got a sparkness to them or a aggressiveness or whatever, right? It's hard to find pictures like that. It's hard to find pictures like that. Biella swept her arm across the night sky. As she did so, a trail of tiny stars and lights trailed from her fingertips. The effect spectacular. She began. In the old heaven, the one before, in the time of the pure angels, all was perfect in heaven. On this point, the new nobility utilize myth and story and fable. They utilize it for its power to connect us to moreness, to the ineffable, to connect us to metaphor and analogy, right? And symbol. All of these are powerful because they say more than they say directly. Right? Now, why do they say the story starts in the time of the old heaven, the one before? This is a deliberate point in order to disconnect angels from the religious point that's come about. Yes, religion came much later than the idea of angels or supernatural beings. Angels could be another word for spirits or nymphs or nature energies, right? All sorts of names for beings that are other than what we see. Fairies, you name it, right? Now, if you think of a fairy, got wings, you can't always see it. It does good, blah, blah, right? Nature. What's the difference with that and an angel? In the abstract, not all that much. Yes, when you focus on the name itself and the stuff that's come around it, then there can be many differences. But in essence and the root of it, a supernatural being that you can't see, there you go, right? And that does good, right? All right, now fairies weren't always regarded as those that did good. But if you look closely and you see, okay, you know, fairies are kind of seen as mischievous or troublemakers, but when you look closely and we see this as part of angels, you see demons, well, in fairies, they just didn't separate them out, it's got lumped together. But then when we go into the story a little bit more and we see it's all good for you, even if it's not nice, same thing in the end, right? This is very powerful to look at things from this abstract point of view. Now, the reason that angels are chosen and not fairies is because the word angel has a very positive connotation. We say, oh, she's an angel. What does that mean? We don't mean that they are part of a religion, right? Doesn't matter. You can say it about anybody of any religion. It means they're a pure soul. They good. They're nice. And there's just everything about them is just excellent and wonderful and more. Yeah. And this is why. So in the time of the old heaven, in the one before religion, in other words, right? So the old heaven is pre-religion, right? In its root thing, just these pure beings here. In the time of the pure angels, see, and before and at least whether the angels themselves got corrupted or not, we don't know. But the story relative to angels certainly got messed up with religion. Right? Especially the Lucifer story, and that came in earlier with Biella's conversation with Camillus, where she makes the point of saying, "Oh, Norma can't connect." Oh, okay, 1 second. I'll send you another link, Norma. In the story that that's not where I want to be. There's one. There we go. Let me just take care of Norma. The same link. I don't know why Norma doesn't work for her. All right. The story got corrupted because it says, oh, you know, Lucifer got corrupted and he fell from grace. That's hierarchy, superiority paradigm thinking, and to get corrupted, ego, blah, blah, blah. If you're in that space of pureness, I don't think it's possible to get corrupted. At least that's my personal viewpoint. I can't see it. You are being, that's your that's your makeup. That's your how your whole setup. Sorry, you need just at some point of purity, it's not possible to engage in such nonsense. You know, just not possible. But you know, people project their own world onto these things, and they can't imagine societies, beings that are truly different to themselves. So of course they put their own ambitions and politics and fighting and pulling people down and wanting status and ego and all of this nonsense. They put it onto the supernatural as well. I think they're in for a surprise when they were to actually meet other types of creatures. They'll find them so different to themselves, they wouldn't be able to believe it. They wouldn't be able to perceive it even. And I've experienced this person just by being different. Sometimes people cannot see it because they can't imagine it. So they put you in the box that they're familiar with. Makes life difficult sometimes. But nonetheless, the point of this old heaven, the one before in the time of the pure angels, is to separate this out from the religious connotations and connections and all the complications. Oh boy, it gets really complicated with angels, all the different structures and the seraphim and the arrow, got their all different names and hierarchies in there. Oh, it's typical hierarchy nonsense, making things complicated. Yeah. It's like, wow, why do you bother so much? The whole system. Biella's voice clear. Biella's pure, clear voice was close, intimate. Because now, we'll discover this later, that they have speakers in this park. And Biella has an implant and, you know, wireless. And, you know, from this, it takes it automatically there. Just simple things. The technology is there to have this do it today, right? I mean, maybe she didn't have it even without an implant. Or those accessories. You can have a nice brooch or a pin that's a lavalier mic. Right? It's perfectly doable in today's technology. And with the speakers all around and speakers placed all throughout the park. Look at all the statues and everything there, and you're sitting in amongst these and speakers everywhere, so the voice everybody can hear clearly, right? Obviously, they're very thoughtful, and this is a place where they're going regularly to tell the story. It's called the Garden of Origin, right? Origin story, Garden of Origin, all ties together. So this is something that they're going to make an effort to do to make sure that everybody can hear clearly. And probably have screens up. If you're far away, you get a screen to see, you know, like when you go to a concert, stuff like that, if they have large crowds. But one day, the impossible happened. A once in an eternity set of circumstances occurred. A long, long string of them. There's Beena back. Hello, Beena, sweetness. Hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, my network is still lagging a bit, but it was suddenly it just dropped.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah. No problem at all. No problem. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. And I read the one slide, you know, just the start here. That's all I got through.
Wow.
1 second. You read. I've got UPS delivering to me, which is great. Which is great. And I've got an outgoing for UPS. If I can get to it in time. UPS, I got an outgoing. Well, UPS, I got an outgoing for you. I don't know if they're out of the truck yet or not. That will save me going there. You see. Sorry for the interruption. Anyway, you read, Beena. You read.
Okay, this slide again.
Oh, fantastic. All right, I'm sorry. Mute me if you can, Beena. Mute me if you can. I didn't, the mute was on the phone that I need to mute, so I didn't get there. Sorry. Now I'm making a big noise here. Can you mute me? Can you mute me?
No, I cannot.
Okay, hang on. I'll mute myself. UPS, I got an outgoing for you. Where'd you go? Oh, Brilliant, brilliant. I'll come give you a hand there. All right, let me mute myself here, Beena.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. It was time. The crowd fell into hushed, expectant silence as Biella seated herself into the orange chair. Fully dark now. The light from accessories added to Biella illuminated her beautifully. She was radiant. The subtle lights of the statues in the Garden of Origin added to an effect of profound appreciation. Glorious delight in the wonder of the world. Biella swept her arms across the night sky. As she did so, a trail of tiny stars and lights trailed from her fingertips. The effect spectacular. She began. In the old heaven, the one before, in the time of the pure angels, all was perfect in heaven. Biella's pure, clear voice was close, intimate. Oh, this is so beautiful. I like this, that the way this has been explained in details. Few things in life, they really need details. You cannot just say things like, oh yes, Biella was sitting here. Some details are important. They are not a luxury, they are a necessity. In this case, I personally feel that the scene actually demands that these details. So we can actually grasp some idea of the moreness in the scene. I'm going to share my screen so I can actually change the pictures. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I said, yes, those details are very important in the story, because I was commenting on them earlier, that it makes a difference because we get to see the mindset, the attitude of the new nobility, how these things are stuff they are doing deliberately, obviously, right? And they matter. They're important. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
It reveals, and this is the remember the intent of the story, right? The intent of the story, why I wrote this, it is to demonstrate, to apply this whole philosophy of appropriateness and the philosophy of nobility, the philosophy of moreness, the philosophy of appropriateness, right? The intent is to show it in action. Show it. And that's why those little details are important. Because it's all about that exquisiteness of application, sensibility, sobriety, moreness, caring, delight and joy in beauty, in wonder. It's all part of it. Yes?
Yes.
I mean, you get a feeling for the people who are setting this up, who are doing this. You get a feeling about them. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's very crucial, is it not?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what we want. I mean, it's not only important in this case from a point of view of illustrating the underlying philosophy and moreness and concepts and application and practicality and the realness of it to show it feasible, but it's also good from a pure storytelling point of view, right? That you're revealing the depth of the story. Otherwise, you've got to spell it all out, and then you're telling your readers. You don't want to be telling your readers, you want to be showing. Yes. So, and that you always hear writers say, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. It's like the mantra for writing. It's like rule number 1. Yeah. Anyway, so it has that value too from a pure writing point of view, pure storytelling point of view. Please keep going, Angel. Please keep going.
But one day, the
See, I
impossible.
say Angel here now, just inadvertently. I see Beena. See everybody.
Okay. But one day, the impossible happened. A once in an eternity set of circumstances occurred. A long, long string of them. So coincidentally did this unfold. They created an indisputable certainty, the overwhelming conviction an angel had actually done something untoward. Biella again swept her arm, slowly this time. The vision above her changed. The energies moved, rolling and churning slightly. For a while, heaven was in consternation. An angel,
Consternation. Yeah.
an angel behaved impossibly.
Mm. Mm.
The angels
All right,
came to
I want
believe.
to pause here a little bit, Beena,
Mhm,
because this brings up a deep point here about myths and how we understand myths and connect to myths, right? And that's
mhm,
why this is the using this angel myth format, and there's a reason for it, all right? Because in myths things aren't particularly clear always, and
mhm,
also that in myths you've got to put 2 and 2 and 4 together and get 8. Yeah, you have to work a little bit at myths,
mhm,
and this is very important. So myths they don't follow the same linear type of a clarity of a normal story and explanation, right? Because
mhm,
mostly with myths you're dealing about something that happened in another type of a reality and in
mhm,
another time, right? So nothing
mhm,
is always that clear, right? But this is the advantage of myths, that because you
mhm,
know it's a myth, you know that interpretation is very much up to you. Yes.
mhm.
And it's a very important point here, right? That's why this is written as a myth, because there are many, many, many powerful points that are being made in the story, in this myth, this origin story.
Mhm,
It's why it's an origin story, because an origin story in itself means that this starts things, right? Things flowed from this, right? It's a core
Yes.
point, and from there, right? Now, this singular point that we're on right now here about this impossibility happening in heaven. If you look at myths, they're almost always about some impossibility somewhere that happened. Yes, some more
Yes.
unusualness or magic or something extraordinary. In other words, right? Otherwise, there's no point to the myth. It's like, well, I guess sometimes they tell you about boring things but
Yes.
generally it's something extraordinary. And this is an extraordinary point. But there's a deeper reason for this. As we go into this, we are going to look at belief, right? And the nuance and the complication that comes from belief. Yes.
Mhm,
So this is not a simple, clear thing, because on the one hand, you might say, well, shouldn't they have believed it? And you say, well, yes. But on the other hand, shouldn't they have? Well, no, right? It's not clear. And in that lack of clarity, we are going to reveal much. I just want to set this up for later. It's a very, very, very powerful thing. Very important. Yes?
yes.
Very, very important.
Okay.
Please
The
keep going,
angels
Angel.
came to believe this. They made great efforts to examine all the evidence, rigorous and scrupulous in their investigations. In the end, the angels of old heaven could only come to the undeniable and inevitable conclusion. This angel had, in fact, transgressed.
Mm.
The vision went almost completely dark, showing an object looking male angel. The angel had done some things, something no angel should ever be capable of. Soft, sad music echoed the disquiet of heaven. For a long time, trouble and doubt smudged the purity of heaven. The angels didn't want to believe this impossibility, could not
Mm,
believe this incredibleness, but they
mm,
had no choice. Then
right.
one
Now,
day, after
oh,
much time had passed,
sorry,
yes,
I want to pause at this point to say, from our perspective, having learnt some things, right, from the story, we already know it, and of course from Way-of-Impeccability, Moreness Project, all of these things, right? Let's say, let's put ourselves into that situation, yeah,
hmm,
and we say, wow, what would we do in that circumstance?
hmm,
Well, first of all, perspective shifting and thinking things through to the end. Those are our tools that we utilize for resolving such matters, correct? Or at least two of them. Yeah.
yes,
Now, when we start to
yes,
perspective shift and we start to use imagination, first thing that comes along, you say, well, who knows? Maybe we're being tested by the universe. See? Right there, we are jumping out of the usual interpretation into a vastly different interpretation. When we have an understanding that the universe and the world doesn't always work the way we think we do, think it does. Right now, I'm open to alternative possibilities that says, well, yes, I understand that it could, theoretically, it could happen, but practically, for an angel to do this, it's like going against the whole universe. It's negating the entire universe that we live in, and everything that we stand for. It's like, no, it cannot be. So I have to look for an alternate explanation. See, and when I come up
yes,
with an alternate explanation with imagination that says, well, maybe the universe is testing our discernment, testing our awareness, testing our integrity, testing our commitment to our own beliefs and values. Wow. Oh, okay. Wow. That's very different now. Yes. Right.
yes, yes,
I'm saying though that at this point, the angels don't get there because of their failure of imagination, essentially, right?
hmm,
And that's mentioned later in the story that they don't have it. But here we see how this actually comes about, this failure of imagination. It's kind of a big deal, no? Right?
it is, it is,
Isn't that something? Isn't that something?
yes,
Simple thing like imagination. And if you go all by the evidence, I've seen this in real life, in actual literal cases where things happened that were so anomalous and they couldn't be imagined, and then it caused a massive problem and people got into trouble and went to jail and everything, simply because those responsible couldn't imagine improbability. Yeah,
hmm,
see what I mean? So it's a big deal. It's a big
yes,
deal. A big deal. Imagination, very big deal. It's very important. We need to pay attention. It's necessary. It's necessary. All right. The other thing is too, it is even when all the evidence is there, we sometimes need to insist that, sorry, it just cannot be. Yeah. Regardless of the
hmm,
evidence, it cannot be. That the evidence must be wrong no matter how conclusive it apparently is. And do you know of such a story, of such an instance? Where does that happen to someone you know? To the young man, right? In the lottery story?
oh yes, oh yes,
No. Eh?
yes,
Sometimes we unaware of things and we have to make allowance for our unawareness. And we have to say, no, I'm not aware of how it could be possible. But just because I'm not aware of how it could be possible, or how, well, in this case, how it's possible for it not to be so, right? Just because I can't see how this evidence could be wrong, doesn't mean that I'm going to just leave it there. In other words, sometimes we have to trust in our own unawareness, as it were. Yeah,
Hmm.
you see what I mean? I have to insist that. Well, I don't know. I don't have all the information, but yes, on it should be impossible, but it seemingly isn't so. That's the point here. That's seemingly, yeah. That's a big, big,
Yes.
big important point. That's seemingly, yeah. And
Yes.
now we don't know the details of how this came about, but this is where attunement once more comes into it, right?
Yes.
I guess the angels are always so much living there, and no need for attunement because everything's all kind of neat and tidy and perfect. At least so we imagine. We don't know. There's stuff missing, but that's the thing with myths. There's always stuff missing, right? So the way we would resolve this in our lives today is when something like this happens, is to pay attention to attunement and also to intent, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, we'd say,
Yes.
but you know, this angel, and to be an angel, your intent is goodness. How could you do something untoward? It's not possible. Could it be that they are acting in a circumstance, in an environment where they are looking at something longer term? Yeah, and we cannot see the greater context of what they're doing. Yes, see what I
Yes.
mean? Again, imagination,
Yes.
imagination. Imagination is
Yes.
very, very, very powerful, very necessary. Yeah. All right, keep going, please. Please, Beena. Oh. Oh.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Then one day, after much time had passed, Biella stretched her arms above her, as if she were about to dive into heaven. She spread her arms wide, and the vision illumined. Then one day, the universe had taken pity on them, it seemed, and another set of extraordinary circumstances occurred. These completely exposed the ridiculously implausible set of circumstances which had caused the unfortunate angel to be wrongly and falsely accused of transgression. The vision brightened. Biella swept her arms across the garden. Angel statues glowed, moved, transformed. The angels within flew from their own positions of stasis in a glorious flight across the amphitheater, right into the vision above Biella, which gloriously expanded to fill the night sky. The angels joyously celebrating this new turn of events, a tremendous relief to the angels. They'd always known it couldn't be so, even though they truly believed it at the time. The evidence had not only been overwhelming, but thoroughly conclusive. Camelius whispered, "Yeah, vindicated angel. How?"
Yay, yay, vindicated.
Okay. Yay.
Yeah.
Indicated angel. How?
Well, yay and yeah is different, right? Because yeah is an agreement, yay is a celebration.
Nora preempted.
Sorry.
Nora preempted him, not wanting to disrupt the story. Holographics, directional sound, and accessories, she whispered back. Biella continued as the vision of heaven and the angels subdued. Heaven went back to being perfect, all the angels perfectly happy. content once more. The music changed. All except one, the Angel Elluminia, an angel of truth. The vision cleared of all the angels except one, a petite angel with intense eyes, a resolute determination to her resolve. The angel's Illuminia's commitment to perfection, fierce indeed, awesome to behold, equally potent, her commitment to integrity. Illuminia was profoundly troubled, also knowing for a fact the angel had transgressed, but at the time the evidence truly had been indisputable. Even though Illuminia also had known it to be impossible, she had for a time changed her way of being to believe this. What
Right,
especially
right.
bothered her was the perfection ideal.
Mm,
She'd come to realize in heaven it was fairly easy to be perfect because the circumstances were always perfect.
yeah.
That one glaring exception, the vision showed a dark stain on heaven, far in the
Because
distance.
things weren't perfect then, right?
Yes,
Mm.
far in the
And sorry,
distance.
and sorry, by implication, what's disturbing if you connected to truth and integrity, you have to say, well, if it could happen once, it can happen again. Disturbing thought. Yes, very
Yes,
disturbing thought. Now you need to say, well, if it can happen again and I don't change, then I can make that same mistake again. Therefore, I need to change so that I can make sure it does not happen again. Yes.
yes.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, big
The
deal.
angel
Yes.
Illuminia. Yes. Okay, please continue.
Sorry. Sorry. Go.
Mm, no, you were saying something.
That's it. That's it. It's just saying it's a big deal. It's a big deal. This
Yeah.
point of the acknowledgement that, well, if it could happen once, it can happen again, and to prevent it from happening again, because you don't want to be making that same mistake twice. Now you have to change. This is where the
Mm,
truth and the self-honesty comes from. The necessity for change. Big deal. Yes.
yes.
No, very big deal. Very big deal. Not a simple matter entirely, but we don't think of this. I mean, I'm just spelling it out, but this is what capital R readings are for, right? That to say, oh, it wasn't obvious a moment ago, but now it's obvious, this need for change. Yes. Now, of course, Illuminia is highlighted here as the angel, but of course, once Illuminia did this, to extend the story a little bit, it's not spelled out here, but we would assume that later all the angels did this. Because how can they not once they become aware of it? Yes.
Mm,
Right. Well, we're only focusing on Illuminia, but it doesn't say that Illuminia was the only one to do it, just the first one. Right. In other words, we mustn't assume just because it doesn't
yes.
say the others didn't, that they also didn't. We have to trust. We have to trust that they that they see the sense of it and did this too. Yes. To trust them. How cool is that? I love it. I love
Yes.
it. All right. Please keep going. Please keep going.
Luminia was profoundly troubled,
Mm.
also knowing for a fact the angel had transgressed, but at the time the evidence truly had been indisputable, even though Illumina also had known it to be impossible. She had for a time changed her way of being to believe this. What especially bothered her was the perfection ideal. She'd come to realize in heaven it was fairly easy to be perfect because the circumstances were always perfect.
Mm.
With that one glaring exception, the vision showed a dark stain on heaven,
far in the distance. The angel Elluminia was particularly troubled by the fact that in less than perfect circumstances, perfection had been compromised. The vision of the old heaven transformed, a world came into view. So she undertook an impossible task. The angel Elluminia came down to earth to learn how to be perfect in the most imperfect of circumstances.
Mm.
She came to earth to live amongst mortals, as one of them. The angel above, Biella, lost her wings as she descended. The world faded from view, and the angel was alone. This came to be an unexpectedly difficult and complicated challenge. The task developed an unanticipated complexity. Her commitment to impeccability and perfection. Fierce, fierce, fierce. She maintained her ideals no matter what, never wavering, ever. Not for a second did she let go of the knowledge. She was, in fact, perfect,
Mm.
even though the peculiarities of circumstance may have forced it to seem otherwise at the time. She didn't waver. Complications and complexity arose from her not being able to compromise. Since an angel can only do what is good for a mortal, regardless of how not nice it may seem. The vision showed the angel interacting with mortals. This was their purpose, after all, to aid mortals to be good. The angel Elluminia never wavered from that commitment, no matter how egregious her behavior seemed at the time. She never let go of her conviction of its rightness and goodness, even if it did not seem to be a conscious perception in the moment. The angel above, Biella, seen in various confrontational situations with mortals. The angel Elluminia appeared to be incapable of admitting culpability angel.
Culpability, yeah.
In mortal form simply was not an option. But the mortal angel, her own fiercest critique, Yala continued, her tone changing to reflect the earnestness of the angel. As an angel committed entirely to goodness and impeccability, everything she did was always for the good. That part was undeniable, and it truly always was,
Mm.
although it was not always apparent to the others, and not to her either. The
Yeah.
angel Elluminia always acted only for the collective good of those around her,
All right, we have to unpack here because here the
regardless of
story.
her
Oh, okay.
understanding how exactly her intent to goodness also. No, please continue.
Yeah, we're just breaking up a little bit there, but that's okay. I just want to unpack this part of the
Can you hear me?
of the myth. Yes, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I want
Yes,
to unpack this part of the myth because it's a little fuzzy here, right? If we go through this, it's like, what's going on here? It's a little complicated, right? And it's not very clear, and it doesn't follow very linearly. But the essence of this is that this intent of the angel, that when she came here, the reality of it was a little different than her imagination, but she didn't really have an idea of what would be involved. And this is just the way it turned out, right? But we have, in essence, we've got conflicting, what's apparent conflict between the behavior and the intent. Yes? So now, not so. This angel comes down, and its intent is twofold. Its intent is to learn to be perfect in imperfect conditions. So it's adopting imperfect conditions. This is part of the deal, as it were, right? When in coming down and being immortal, you accepting that you're going to be imperfect, yes, but you have an
Yes.
intent towards perfection. And on top of that, there is the simultaneous intent that says that uh, the simultaneous intent of doing what's good for mortals, they have to work together. See? So in this intent of doing what's good for mortals, the angel finds herself in confrontational situations, which you might say, wow, that doesn't seem very angelic. But how can it be? Only when we understand that her being difficult, her being troublesome, her being whatever, she has to do this because if she is, in that circumstance, she doesn't have the skill yet, right? She hasn't learned to be like capital diplomacy or whatever. But she can't just agree and go along with things, right? And when it's going to lead to harm for the mortal. See? Right. Let's say she knows that
Yeah.
this partnership, this wedding is a terrible idea. And now she's a mortal and she tells her friend, oh, this guy's bad for you. And she has a big argument with a friend. She hasn't learned the skills yet. She's new to this, right? As an angel, she'll
Yes.
just do something, just interfere in some way, make it difficult. And the person will say, well, and basically anomalies for the individual. And then, oh, this isn't working out. And okay, they move on, right? That's the kind of way the angels operate. But when you got to do it directly, when you don't have angel powers, it's now a whole different world. It's a whole different ball game. Yeah. See what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it changes. It changes. And of course, now she's got these conflicting intents: the intent to learn and the intent to do what's good and the intent to be perfect. Right. And of course, she's got this knowledge that it's not conscious, but subconsciously, that she is perfect. And as such, how can she admit that she's wrong? What she's doing is right. All right, let's take the example now of like with the friend, yes, and preventing them from getting married, for argument's sake. What she's doing is right. The method of how she does it, that's not ideal. See, two different things. But the angel's not aware of this distinction at the moment, which of course causes the trouble, right? Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
wonderfully, deliciously complicated, as such myths often become. Yeah. But when we unpack it, it starts to make sense. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it
Yes.
now. I get it. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's why I enjoy the story so much and why it's so beloved by the new nobility, because it forces us to think. Yes. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yes.
Please carry on. Please carry on. I just wanted to add
Okay.
that in there. It's an important point to be aware of. Yeah.
She didn't waver. Okay. Complications and complexity arose from her not being able to compromise, since an angel can only do what is good for a mortal, regardless of how not nice it may seem. The vision showed the angel interacting with mortals. This was their purpose, after all, to aid mortals to be good. The angel Illuminia never wavered from that commitment, no matter how egregious her behavior seemed at the time. She never let go of her conviction of its rightness and goodness, even if it did not seem to be a conscious perception in the moment. The angel above Biella, seen in various confrontational situations with mortals, the angel Illuminia appeared to be incapable of admitting culpability, acknowledgement of error by the angel Illuminia when in mortal form simply was not an option. But the mortal angel, her own fiercest critique, Biella continued, her tone changing to reflect the earnestness of the angel. As an angel committed entirely to goodness and impeccability, everything she did was always for the good. That part was undeniable, and it truly always was. Although it was not always apparent to others, and not to her either. The angel Illuminia always acted only for the collective good of those around her, regardless of her understanding how exactly her intent to goodness also fierce. Ripples of energy emitted from the angel instead of fading with distance, they sometimes expanded, sometimes diminished as they interacted with individual mortals. However, the angel Illuminia realized good didn't always translate as ideal. Now a young man had come to know the angel Illuminia. Above Biella, the angel was joined by a very earnest looking young man. He had an eager interest to him. His name, Sabastian. He loved
I
to
think let's
figure
leave it here.
everything
Let's
out.
leave it here for
He had
today,
taken,
Beena.
okay,
It's a good
okay,
point to pause where Sebastian comes into it, right?
okay, yes.
Yeah, just a good stop to pause on, and then we start tomorrow and we get into the detail of Sebastian and coming on to it. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Did Norma make it?
I don't know, I cannot see this right now, but
I hope so. I hope so. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's Norma. Hello, Norma. Sorry, I was outside working and doing shipping while listening to Beena and Norma, so I didn't see your comments. But yeah, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Very cool. Very cool. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good deal. Good deal. Good deal. All right. So hello and goodbye all at the same time, Norma. Yeah. I'm glad you're here, Norma. I'm glad you're here. I like this that you're part of this. Yeah. 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 Glad you're here, Norma. Glad you're here. I always like it when you're here. I'm glad you found it in the end. Yeah. No, 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 no. We want you here. Yes. Yeah. No, no. I don't know why the link wasn't working for you. Yeah. 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 Just us here. Yes. Just us here. But that's the magic of it. We have fun no matter how many is here. It is life, being a Norma to answer you. Yes. But I know you go over them and you listen to the replay sometimes. Yes, the story is about angels, but old angels before religious angels, pure angels, and there's a reason for it. And they just, you could call them whatever. You could any being that's supernatural, that's dedicated to the goodness of mortals, now to assisting the goodness of mortals. Doesn't matter. But you have to listen to the story and the detail, and then you get into the fullness of it, and it will all make sense for you, Norma. Yeah. No, I don't know if it's sabotage. Just who knows? Sometimes weird things happen. With links, sometimes it just takes a while. You got to click on it and then wait. Sometimes it takes a little while for it to get through, and if you don't wait, then it can kick it out. then you tap on something again and it cancels that waiting. Yeah, stuff like that. There's many reasons why it could happen. And none of it nefarious. None of it nefarious. Sometimes just slow internet. Stuff like that. All right. All right, Norma. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll chat later, of course, as well. So that was brilliant. Thank you, Beena. Any takeaways before we go?
That was really, I'm really enjoying this this whole reading of this. Not only because of the story itself, but the rhythm of the story, the flow of the story. I'm really enjoying that too.
Thank you. Yes, me
So,
too.
yes.
Me too. I really like that you mentioned that, because I never said anything about it to you, that you pick this up on your own, because that for me is why I like it. And sometimes I'm not sure if these things are just me in my own world bubble that I live in, and I think these things are this way and I like them. And I never sure, because I get so little feedback. I have no idea. Yeah. I know, Norma, but the internet's not static. It doesn't always stay the same. So things change. But just have to have patience sometimes. That's all. You got there in the end.
Yeah,
Must be some
okay.
connection.
Okay, everyone.
All right.
See you tomorrow because
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, Beena. You're breaking
it's
up, Beena,
lagging
so
and
I'm
not
just,
still.
yeah. Well, you too. So we just end now. See, Norma, my internet, Beena's internet, slow also. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. End meeting for all. You'll see the meeting end, and then you'll know, even if you don't know what we're saying. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.